The fall of a patriarch. It wasn't supposed to end this way. For more than a decade, Kody Brown had dominion over his kingdom of wives, children, and cameras. He smiled for the camera. He gave monologues on love, faith, and spiritual authority. He preached harmony, even as cracks were beginning behind the closed doors. Millions watched every week on Sister Wives, observing the disintegration of plural marriage on television, never knowing they were watching the prequel to a real-life attorney disaster. But one cold, cloudy morning in Flagstaff, Arizona, everything shifted. The arrest came out of nowhere. The charges were not a drill. And the wives? They weren't quiet anymore. It started like any other morning in the sleepy neighborhood. Joggers went by at dawn. School buses belched past. Birds chirped against the Arizona gust. And then the sirens arrived. Red and blue lights poured over the block. Squad cars arrived at the stone and brick house of Kody Brown. The man who once asserted spiritual dominance over 4 wives and 18 children emerged in a bathrobe and sandals, disoriented, frantic, and surrounded. Kody Brown. One of the officers started, reading from a paper. You are arrested for misappropriation of finances, misrepresentation by fraud, and coercive abuse of family members and affiliated LLCs. Kody blinked. Once, twice. This is an error, he whispered. But no one was listening. The handcuffs were applied. The cameras were already rolling. And the truth was about to burst its seams. Flashback, whispers in the shadows. Only 3 months prior to the arrest, the web was ablaze with a viral TikTok from an unknown Vanessa Pierce. A Utah woman, 34, sat in her kitchen waving a piece of paper. The caption was, "What would you do if you found out your husband had 4 secret wives and a reality show?" The paper? A marriage license. The groom's name? Kody Brown. Fans didn't believe it at first. It's fake. She's clout chasing. TLC would have shown this. But then came the receipts. Screenshots of text messages, intimate photos. Some dated during Kody's on-screen marriage to Robin, bank transfer logs from accounts tied to the Coyote Pass Property Fund. And finally, a voice recording of Kody saying, "Vanessa, you're my future. The others are the past." The fandom imploded. Christine, Janelle, and Mary made cryptic comments. Robin fell silent. Reddit threads descended into anarchy. Was this the last nail? Was the family's whole spiritual edifice constructed on lies? The reply came when Christine tweeted with just 4 words, "We warned you." Now watch. The legal avalanche behind the scenes, a quiet storm had already been forming. Following the revelations, Janelle reportedly hired a forensic accountant. Christine began compiling years of contracts, payments, and LLC filings. Mary, long the most reserved, reached out to an attorney with a single line, "I think I've been robbed of my life." Their doubts weren't emotional ones. They were fiscal, rooted, attached to real estate transactions, joint business ventures, and investments the wives had all assumed were family decisions, but now were opening up as solo Kody endeavors. What they discovered was astonishing. Funds set aside for house construction that never came out of the ground. Investments in Coyote Pass LLC funneled into shell accounts. Legal documents secretly naming sole Robin co-owner on several assets, and more than $150,000 paid out to Vanessa Pierce for family-related development. Christine allegedly cried when she heard it. It wasn't betrayal, she later would testify. It was a robbery of our time, our trust, and our futures. The trial of the decade, the case progressed quickly. Within 45 days, subpoenas had been issued. Charges had been filed by the Attorney General's office. Witness lists had been drawn up. Depositions had been taken. And then the court date had been scheduled. Early spring, 2025. The world watched as the headlines were rewritten from Sister Wives returns to Kody Brown faces prison. The trial got underway with a media frenzy that had not been witnessed since the largest celebrity scandals. News vans, courthouse illustrations, live YouTube panels breaking down every detail. The fandom was no longer observing. They were weighing in. Justice for Christine #expose. The fifth wife #free. Janelle #Kody trial. And as the masses theorized, The actual fight unfolded under oath. The wives break their silence. First up was Christine. Wearing a dark navy blazer, she gazed at Kody with steel-eyed determination. Manipulated us for years, she stated matter-of-factly. Pretended it was God's plan to remain quiet, while he controlled everything. Our accounts, our properties, our kids' futures. And then Janelle arrived. Her testimony crisp, deliberate, complete. I'm a financial planner, she explained. And I didn't even know what he was doing until I saw the LLC breakdowns. Kody built walls of protection around himself and Robin, and we thought we were included in a family business. Mary continued, visibly upset, but clear. He wiped me out. I was never legal. I was never equal. I gave him 30 years of commitment and received a contract that did not even bear my name. And then, like the coup de grace, Vanessa testified. I didn't know, she cried, wiping at her eyes. I was told the others had left, that I was the only one, that it was a clean slate. The courtroom was in stunned silence as she brandished a credit statement with Kody Pass Dev Fund, transferred directly to her home mortgage. The meltdown heard round the world. And then when Kody finally stood before her in court, it all came crashing down. He shouted, he wept, he faulted the media, the wives, even the pressure of being a spiritual figure. Once he bellowed, you don't know what it's like to love 4 women and be perfect for each of them. The judge rapped his gavel. Mr. Brown, this is not about love, this is about law. And now, the verdict awaits. That's where we are at. In this instant, the behind closed doors jury. The tense courtroom. America hung on the edge of their phones and living rooms. The man who used to proclaim to construct a family in the likeness of faith now stares down the real likeness of prison bars. And whether you're Team Christine, Team Janelle, or simply someone who's followed this tale for more than a decade, one thing is certain: Kody Brown no longer has the reins. The women do, and they're not going anywhere. Closing hook tease. The courtroom doors open in the next session. The jury speaks, and what comes next changes the game. Tune in to session 1. The sirens came at dawn. Full courtroom beginning streaming now. It was shortly after 6 a.m. in Flagstaff, Arizona, when the quiet of the suburban cul-de-sac exploded like shattering glass. Red and blue lights reflected off the walls of surrounding houses. Police sirens screamed through the morning stillness. Birds fled. Porch lights snapped on individually. The sleepy neighbors appeared in pajamas, gripping cups of coffee and bewilderment. In the midst of the turmoil, barefoot on the chilly concrete of his driveway, was Kody Brown. Disheveled hair, bloodshot eyes, and clad in a navy blue bathrobe, he resembled less the man America had come to know for more than a decade on Sister Wives, and more like a dazed defendant arrested in the middle of a nightmare. But this was no nightmare. This was reality. And the nightmare was only beginning. Mr. Brown, you are arrested for financial fraud, misrepresentation of marriage status, and abuse of family business assets, the officer asserted as 2 more stood on either side of him. Kody's jaw dropped, then shut. He glanced around, as if hoping someone would intervene and stop it. Someone to jump in and tell him this was a mistake. But no one did, not even his darling Robin, usually the popular wife as far as fans were concerned, showed up at the doorstep. Click, click. The handcuffs clapped onto his wrists. The former spiritual head of what once was a whole polygamous family had just been brought down, in front of lights, cameras, and the masses who had followed his life for years. This was not a rumor anymore. This was federal. And it began with a whisper that became a roar. A month ago, a young woman named Vanessa Pierce had come into being in a viral TikTok video. A mere 30 seconds. She held up a marriage certificate. The caption said, "When you find out your wife number 5, and he never told you about the TV show." It wasn't the most shocking material, until the camera zeroed in on her husband's name, Kody Brown. Sister Wives fans lost their minds. Was this genuine? A hoax? A publicity gimmick? But Vanessa would not give in. In a matter of days, she went online and posted screenshots of messages, photos of herself with Kody, and receipts for thousands of dollars wired to her from an account under the name Kody Pass Dev Fund, the same property fund Kody and his wives had argued about on national TV. It was legit, and the deceit began to break down. Tension inside the Brown family. As the world outside hummed with activity, within the broken Brown clan the response was rapid and angry. Janelle, who had subtly separated from Kody months before, was said to be the first to retain a lawyer. "I knew something was off," she told an insider. "We would argue about money all the time, but I never thought he would go behind all of our backs and marry someone secretly." Christine, remarried and outspoken now, went live on Instagram and declared, "For years we were instructed to trust him. Now we discover he was pumping money into another life. This isn't about polygamy anymore. This is fraud." Mary, always the most mysterious of the sister wives, was silent, until she left a cryptic tweet. "The truth doesn't hide. It waits." But the silence of Robyn, once Kody's closest and most trusted partner, was deafening. Weeks went by, with fans speculating, was she involved? Did she know? Had she been party to the cover-up? And then came the rumor that shattered it all. Robyn had supposedly found Kody's emails with Vanessa a year ago, and said nothing. If true, the pillars of trust, even between Kody and Robyn, were destroyed. The legal dominoes fall. The authorities didn't wait for the reality show to catch up. With growing evidence, several witness accounts, and financial records from the Brown family LLC, the Office of Arizona Attorney General opened an investigation into misuse of business funds, unreported financial gifts and transfers, false representation of marriage status in legal documents, possible tax evasion tied to Coyote Pass properties. Within weeks, subpoenas were issued. Lawyers brought motions. Courtrooms were readied. And then came the final order: arrest Kody Brown, before more damage could be done. What made this case even more extraordinary was that much of the evidence had played out in front of millions through TLC's own footage. Clips were resurfacing of Kody pressuring his wives to sign documents, scenes where he dismissed their financial concerns, moments where he promised unity, while quietly pursuing new business ventures, alone. One particularly damning scene showed Kody telling Christine, "You're either in this family or you're out. There's no halfway." But now it appeared he was the one with a foot out the door, building a new life, a new family and a new future, while leaving the others behind financially and emotionally broken. The arrest seen around the world. When mainstream media picked up the news of Kody's arrest, it was already trending globally. #Kody arrested #5. Wife bombshell #sister wives. Turn #courtroom. Chaos CNN. TMZ. People, even the New York Times, were carrying coverage. Ex-fans of the show filled Twitter and Facebook with heartbreak, betrayal, and some with subdued satisfaction. "He finally got what was coming," one fan wrote. Another posted, "All those years gaslighting his wives. And now look. Justice." And neighbors and Flagstaff stood in real time by as the man they had once known as a local celebrity was led into the back of a police SUV, head down, surrounded by flashing lights. A TLC producer was reportedly on hand, whispering into a phone, "We need cameras in the courtroom. This is the real season finale." The women reclaimed the narrative as Kody was driven away. The real story began to unfold. Not about a man's downfall, but about the strength of the women he underestimated. Janelle, Christine, and Mary had already been meeting behind the scenes, not just to testify, but to reclaim what was taken from them: money, property, dignity. "They told our stories through his lens," Christine would later say in an interview. "Now we're telling ours." It wasn't about sister wives anymore. It was now about sister warriors. And the war they were set to win. The courthouse was filled to capacity. All the seats in the viewing gallery were full. Television stations, ex-fans, nosy neighbors and quiet spectators. Even experienced journalists murmured that they had not seen so much fascination in a reality TV personality since the Depp Heard trial. Cameras weren't permitted in the room, but the melee outside didn't let up. Satellite trucks clogged the block. Strangers stood on tiptoes to get a glimpse through the windows. Signs were waved. "Justice for Janelle. Expose the fifth. #Team Christine." Inward in the high ceilings and blinding fluorescent lighting, Kody Brown sat at defense counsel's table. Gaunt face, slicked back hair, a gray suit, creased and somewhat too small, took the place of his usual wild curls and plaid shirts. In the courtroom, seated across from him were his ex-wives, Christine, Janelle and Mary, each attired in unobtrusive dignity, each of them gazing with eyes that once overflowed with love. now stiffened with years of disillusionment and disbelief. Today wasn't for them. Today was for the woman no one had anticipated. A gentle knock resounded through the room. A bailiff bent to whisper, "Your Honor, the witness has arrived." They all turned. The doors swung open, and in strode Vanessa Pierce, the so-called secret fifth wife of the tabloids. She didn't appear like a scandal. She didn't burst in her red face or have an attitude. She was calm, collected. A plain navy blue dress, straight black hair, and hard eyes. But don't be mistaken. Her arrival slammed like a sledgehammer. As she reached the witness stand, even Kody's head turned incredulously. For the first time since he had been taken away, his braggadocio cracked. His foot twitched nervously. His lawyer leaned forward, muttering something urgently, but Kody remained unresponsive. Vanessa was sworn in, breathed deeply, and fixed her eyes on the jury. Vanessa Pierce is my name. I became acquainted with Kody Brown in 2021 with the help of a mutual friend. He said he had left all of his former wives, and was eager to begin anew with a woman of faith. I trusted him. I wedded him. I was wife number 5, and I didn't realize I was entering into a nightmare. The courtroom fell silent. Every sentence from Vanessa sliced through the air like a pin drop in a cathedral. He told me that I was the solution to his prayers. She started. That God had shown him me in a dream. I didn't know his show. I wasn't even on social media very much. But I was in love. She stopped. And I was manipulated. Vanessa told that her wedding to Kody was quiet, conducted in Utah by a fringe religious celebrant. No cameras, no relatives, only the promise of a new start. He said the other marriages were over, that he was misrepresented by television, she told, voice shaking. He even made me sign a non-disclosure agreement, so I wouldn't speak about our relationship. Janelle leaned over and whispered to Christine. He used NDAs on her too. Christine shook her head slowly, dismayed. But love wasn't the only thing being put on trial. As Vanessa went on, the prosecution rolled out a string of incriminating documents. Bank wires, investment agreements, real estate leases, all signed or authorized by Kody Brown, tracing funds from the Brown Family LLC into Vanessa's accounts. The figures weren't small. $15,000 to enable her to start a home business, $22,000 to purchase a car, $60,000 transferred to a joint account, Coyote Life Foundation, and another $23,000, labeled Emergency Retainer for Vanessa Legal. Christine's eyebrows came together. That was out of the land fund. The Coyote Pass Fund, Vanessa explained. He said it was his money from his show, from investments. I didn't know it was family money. The courtroom hummed. Robin, sitting alone at the back of Kody, appeared white. Her mouth shook. One tear dripped. This wasn't Kody's betrayal alone. It was hers as well. Had she suspected? Had she assisted in keeping it secret? Or had she been deceived like everyone else? Then the audio. The prosecution had secured secret recordings off Vanessa's phone. Voice memos and voicemails from Kody, going back as far as January 2022. You're the only one that gets me. The others, they were phases. When the time is right, we'll make it public. But for now, it's just us. Trust me, baby. You're the real wife now. The jury looked shocked. Even the judge raised an eyebrow. Janelle muttered, disgusting. Christine leaned forward, hands clenched. Mary sat frozen, jaw tight, as if reliving years of manipulation in one moment. The damage was done. Kody didn't merely acquire a fifth wife. He constructed a duplicate existence, supported by the family he abandoned. As if matters could not be worse, Vanessa's attorney introduced an electronic slideshow of photographs, never previously disclosed to the public. Kody and Vanessa strolling along a beach in Cabo. Kody at a baby shower. Vanessa organized. Kody with his hand on Vanessa's abdomen. Kody posing in front of a newly rented building in Colorado, registered under Vanco Holdings LLC. The slideshow concluded with a haunting image. A framed photo of Kody and Vanessa on a small mantle, alongside a candle and a printed quote. God builds new families when the old ones fall. Christine gasped. Janelle closed her eyes. Mary shook her head in disbelief. Robin stood up and exited. Order in the court, snapped the judge as murmurs became audible outrage. He addressed Kody. Mr. Brown, this court is not only beginning to notice a pattern of lying, but of consistent financial and emotional exploitation in the name of spiritual devotion. Kody's attorney attempted to object. Your Honor, these are emotional appeals, not legal violations. But the judge interrupted him. We'll rule on that once all the financial statements are completely analyzed. But the believability of this witness is not an issue. He turned to Vanessa. Thank you for your courage. Vanessa nodded, eyes moist but resolute. I just wanted the truth out there. Outside, after court was recessed for the day, pandemonium broke out. Vanessa was mobbed by reporters. Her attorney stood over her with an umbrella. No comment, she said. But the headlines had already been written. Fifth wife talks. Kody supported my lifestyle with family funds. Vanessa's shocking court admission. He lied to us all. Sister wives reeling. Secret wife testifies at raucous trial. Within the courthouse, Kody would not look anyone in the eye. His mask cracked. The charm was broken. The excuses were exhausted. And his empire founded on spiritual marriages, television melodrama, and carefully managed narratives was going up in flames. The courtroom was chillier than normal that morning, not due to the air conditioning, but due to the tension. A silence hung, thick and oppressive, like the walls themselves were holding their breath in anticipation. The judge's gavel came down. All rise. Everyone rose. And as the courtroom quieted, all eyes looked, not at Kody Brown, not at the prosecution, but at the three women sitting together in a row. Christine, Janelle, and Mary Brown. For more than a decade they were America's picture of plural marriage, smiling, long-suffering, forgiving. But today the world would witness something else. Today they were not wives. Today they were witnesses, and they were prepared to fight back. Christine pulled her blazer into place, eyes fixed straight ahead. Janelle held a notebook with scripted remarks. Mary sat silently, her face inscrutable, until you caught sight of her bracing jaw. They hadn't sat side by side in years, not since the beginning seasons of Sister Wives, when family meetings culminated in tense laughter, and everything was just complicated. But now, they were bound by betrayal. Their lawyers had warned them this would be emotional. And yet, the three women stood firm, shoulders back, hearts guarded, voices clear. When Christine was summoned to the stand first, the room prepared for impact. Slowly she walked to the stand and stopped, looking straight at Kody. His eyes darted away. Mrs. Brown, the lawyer started. How long were you in a relationship with the defendant? 25 years, Christine said, her voice firm. We were spiritually married in 1994. I left him in 2021. And in all that time, did you have access to the finances of the family? Christine laughed. Access? No. I had permission, only when he granted it. Every significant financial decision was made with Kody's approval. Every property, every investment, every account. The prosecution produced a copy of the Coyote Pass property deed, Kody's name alone under managing partner. He told us we were a team. Christine went on. But we weren't. We were employees in his empire. Wives in name, controlled in practice. Her voice never broke, but the room sensed the burden of what hadn't been said. The decades of emotional abnegation, of hoping, of waiting. He made us feel we weren't complete without him, she said at last. But he was the one dismantling us. Then it was Janelle's turn, level-headed and serious. The courtroom anticipated tears. They were rewarded with spreadsheets, bank statements, and hard facts. Can you break those down? The lawyer asked, gesturing to a projector that showed a family LLC ledger. Janelle straightened her glasses. These were monthly disbursements, about $8,500, out of our property development account. That added up to more than $150,000 over 18 months. We were informed that that money was spent on land surveys, fencing, and taxes. Did it? No, said Janelle sternly. Those services were not performed. Those invoices were faked. Who was able to access that account? Kody and Robin. That's it. The courtroom erupted into murmurs. The judge struck his gavel for silence. Janelle went on. We pleaded for openness. I even requested that he give me monthly reports. He brushed it off, told me I didn't have to worry about the big picture. But I'm not just a wife. I'm a businesswoman. And I knew something was amiss. She waved a manila folder. Here are all my emails to him throughout the years, requesting an explanation. I never received one clear answer. Everyone assumed Mary would refuse to testify. For years she had been the most faithful. Some say the saddest of the wives. Following the fateful catfishing fiasco and public emotional estrangement from Kody, many asked themselves why she remained. They now knew. As she settled into the witness stand, she did not glance in Kody's direction. Not even once. "I stayed because I thought I was being faithful," she said quietly. "But really I was afraid. Afraid of nothing. Afraid that the man I loved would remove me from the narrative." "Did he remove you?" the lawyer asked. Mary nodded, her voice heavy. "He did. Slowly, silent. At family gatherings my opinion didn't count. At home he stayed away from me. In front of the camera he smiled. Behind the camera I didn't exist." Then she turned to the jury for the first time. "Kody said to me I was always part of the family. But I discovered, through Vanessa's testimony, that he'd been referring to her as his real wife for more than a year, while I was still standing up for him in public." A tear ran down her cheek. "He didn't only cheat us financially, he cheated us emotionally. And we let him, for far too long." Kody's defense lawyer, desperate to regain the upper hand, attempted to portray the wives as jealous, vengeful and bitter once their relationships were ended. But every time he attempted to shoot holes, the women pushed back, strongly and smartly. When he implied Janelle misunderstood business transactions, she produced receipts and timelines. When he blamed Christine for leaving due to TV drama, she enumerated on-the-record requests she made, years prior to the cameras catching anything. And when he suggested Mary was emotional and unreliable, the courtroom gasped audibly. Mary, in one of the day's most memorable moments, leaned into the microphone and said, "Maybe I am emotional. But at least I didn't build a secret marriage behind a spiritual lie." Even the judge stifled a smile. Outside the courthouse, the media went nuts. TV news anchors were referring to it as the sister wives reckoning. Podcasts were dissecting every sentence. Social media was filled with Janelle's a queen. Christine just killed Kody's legacy. Mary has taken back her power. Footage of their testimonies made the rounds in minutes, each woman trending on all platforms. It was no longer merely a court case. It was a cultural turning point. The wives once sympathized over had become icons of freedom. Audiences that once watched them compete for a husband were now witnessing them assert themselves in a courtroom. Kody slumped, his jaw clenched, and he refused to look at their faces. Lost was the self-assured, hot-headed man who once claimed to be the leader of the family. Instead, standing before them was a trapped man, vulnerable and vanquished. At some point during Christine's testimony, Kody frantically wrote something on a notepad and handed it to his lawyer. Court reporters later found the note stated, "We can settle. This can't go on." But it was too late already. The court did not just hear testimonies. It heard a decade of suppressed pain. It heard the real price of control disguised as love. The fourth day of the trial started under the tension of a gray sky. The courthouse steps were swarming with reporters and fans, some waving signs, others simply there to witness justice served. Through 3 days of jaw-dropping accounts from Christine, Janelle, Mary, and the stunning witness appearance of Vanessa, the putative secret fifth wife, it was time for the moment everyone had been waiting for. Kody Brown was soon to testify on the stand. Within the courtroom, anticipation reigned. The prosecution remained impassive, stacks of files in front of them. The members of the jury leaned forward slightly, wide-eyed, pens at the ready. Even the judge seemed like he expected something to pop, and he wasn't disappointed. What followed over the next few hours was half confession, half breakdown, and entirely chaos. A real-time dissembling of a man who had spent years building a persona that was now coming apart under oath. Kody smoothed his blazer, stood upright, and tried to muster a weak smile. But there was no swagger in his step anymore. No confidence. The once charismatic leader of a household of 4 wives and 18 children now walked as if heading towards a firing squad. He sat, scanned the room, and met the eyes of his former wives seated across the gallery. He nodded to Robin, whose face did not give anything away. She did not nod in response. The judge inquired, "Mr. Brown, are you ready to give evidence under oath?" Kody took a deep breath and responded, "Yes, Your Honor." And so the unraveling commenced. The prosecutor stood unruffled and started with what appeared to be ritualistic questions. Mr. Brown, how many times have you lawfully married? One time, replied Kody, speaking of his marriage to Robin. The others were spiritual marriages. Are those unions equal in commitment and obligation? In God's eyes, yes. In the eyes of the court. Kody paused. Well, I guess not lawfully, no. A murmur ran through the courtroom. The prosecutor continued. So would it be fair to say that although you publicly presented your wives as equals, you held legal and financial control over them? Kody stiffened. That wasn't the intention. But it was the effect, wasn't it? No response. The prosecutor took another step forward, holding up a printout. This is an email to your accountant from you saying, only Robin's and my name should go on the new trust documents. Leave the others out. Did you write that? Kody's jaw tightened. Yes, but that was for practical reasons. Practicalities that resulted in your other wives losing property, retirement savings, and access to joint income? It wasn't stealing. Kody's voice shrill, suddenly rising. It was about making things easier. The atmosphere in the room changed. Kody flushed. He hunched forward, arms rigid on the stand. You people don't understand, he barked. This wasn't some scam. This was a family, a complicated family. Do you know how hard it is to lead 4 wives, to juggle 18 kids, to be on camera constantly and still hold everything together? The judge banged the gavel. Mr. Brown, control yourself. But Kody was already spiraling. They left me, he yelled, gesturing toward Christine and Janelle. They rejected our faith. They distorted the story. I gave them everything, and now they're in here portraying me as some sort of monster. Christine slowly shook her head. Janelle remained frozen. Mary closed her eyes. The prosecution let the silence grow before calmly asking, and Vanessa, did she also leave you? Or was she simply another component of your logistical simplification? Kody appeared dazed. She was different, he said. Different how? I loved her. And you didn't love the others? He hesitated too long. The prosecution presented a damning slideshow of financial information. With each photo, Kody's hands drummed on the table. $28,000 sent to Vanessa's personal account. A rented vacation house in Colorado, under Vanco Holdings LLC. Improvements on Coyote Pass charged, but never done an anonymous offshore account that corresponded to Kody's known aliases. Are these your authorizations, Mr. Brown? The lawyer demanded. Kody didn't reply. The lawyer repeated the question louder. I said I don't know, Kody bellowed. Do you think I oversaw every little transfer myself? I had advisors, people surrounding me. I trusted people. You trusted people or used people. The courtroom was ablaze. At one point, Kody visibly snapped. When confronted with a video clip from Sister Wives, an episode in which he tells Christine, "You'll regret leaving this family." Kody stared at the screen for a long time. Then he whispered, I was trying to hold on. You were trying to hold control, the attorney countered. Let's talk about that. And suddenly a new piece of evidence was introduced. A hidden tape made by Robin, delivered to prosecutors just 2 nights before. On it, Kody's ranting about tightening the reins and proclaiming, if they leave with nothing. Even Robin appeared devastated listening to the replay. Kody slumped forward in his chair, hands across his face. The courtroom remained in shocked silence. The judge leaned forward. Do you deny making that statement, Mr. Brown? He didn't respond. Mr. Brown, the judge said with emphasis, this court has seen breakdowns in emotions before. But we're not here to pass judgment on your emotional distress. We're here to see if your actions amount to fraud, coercion, and misrepresentation. Kody sat quietly, slumped shoulders. The judge went on. This is not about your reality television show. This is not about your celebrity status. This is about ordinary people, real money, and real consequences. Kody did not raise his head. The instant the court adjourned for lunch, the media had already decreed Kody's meltdown in court. Reality star loses it on the stand. Kody Brown breaks down under pressure. Excerpts of the audio leak started trending. TikTokers restaged his meltdown. Twitter was on fire. He snapped because the truth hurts. Kody's a narcissist who finally met karma. I almost feel bad. But then I remember the wives. Even lawyers opined. declaring his testimony had done more harm than good. The wives sat in contemplative silence from the gallery. Janelle was heard informing her lawyer. He never thought this would happen. He thought he was untouchable. Christine merely nodded. We were the only ones who ever held him accountable. And now so is the law. Mary said nothing, but a fleeting smile danced on her lips as if, after all these years, she finally felt understood. The courtroom was quiet. You could hear the tick of the old clock at the back of the judge's bench, the faraway click of a reporter's pen, and the labored breathing of a dozen people desperate not to breathe too soon. Outside, the media circus grew. Inside, all eyes were on the double doors through which the jury would come out. It had been 5 raw, emotion-filled days. Explosive secrets, gut-wrenching testimony, and one unforgettable meltdown. And now finally the fate of Kody Brown was in the hands of 12 strangers. The man who had once confidently taught the merits of plural marriage, reality TV stardom, and patriarchal authority, now sat motionless, empty, and ashen. His suit jacket, once sharp, hung limp from the shoulders. His eyes, once burning with defiance, were now deep-set and bloodshot. The tumble had been public, and now came the coup de grace. Would it be freedom or destruction? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a verdict, the bailiff declared. Gasps spread through the gallery. Cameras set up outside the courtroom started rolling. Reporters frantically texted. Social media live streams named Kody Verdict Live started trending. The jury entered. 12 somber faces. No grins, no looks at the defendant. Just silent, collective seriousness. The judge peered over his glasses. Will the foreperson please rise? A late 40s woman stood up. She clutched a single piece of paper, shaking hands slightly. In the case of State of Arizona versus Kody Brown, on the charge of financial misappropriation, guilty. A collective gasp was sharp. On the charge of coercive financial control, guilty. Janelle's hand covered her mouth. On the charge of fraudulent misrepresentation in contractual family assets, guilty. Christine shut her eyes. Silent tears trickled down her face. On the charge of emotional coercion and manipulation, substantiated and admissible for civil claim review. The courtroom shook with murmurs, shock, and muffled sobs. Even veteran journalists seemed stunned. Mary bent her head. Robin, sitting at the rear, sat stiff, her arms crossed tightly. A mask of quiet destruction etched across her face. The judge glanced around the room and nodded. Thank you. The court sees the jury's decision and holds the defendant, Kody Brown, guilty on all major charges. Sentencing will be scheduled today. He paused, then spoke with gravity. Today this court sees a pattern of manipulation wrapped in the guise of religious tradition, an abuse of legal and emotional power, and the disempowerment of partners in the name of religious unity. That ends today. Remand him, the judge ordered. 2 officers approached. Kody, dazed, blinked like a man waking from a dream. He opened his mouth but didn't speak. He fought neither. He wept not. He just stood, slowly, and raised his wrists. The handcuffs snapped louder than anyone had anticipated. Cold metal, cold justice. As he was led toward the side exit, he glanced back. Not at the judge, but at the gallery. His gaze locked onto Christine's. She didn't blink. He scanned Janelle. Her look was steel. Mary never even glanced his way. And then he saw Robin, whose eyes had finally welled up with tears, but not for him, for the fantasy she'd held on to. And in an instant, Kody Brown was gone behind the doors of the courtroom, no longer a patriarch, but an inmate waiting to be sentenced. When courthouse doors swung open, the world outside erupted. Hornet-like reporters buzzed everywhere. Helicopters revolved above. Fans and detractors alike crowded the steps. Some chanted. Some wept. Some stood there simply holding signs that read, "Justice for the wives. Spiritual doesn't mean legal." Kody lied. They rose. Christine, Janelle, and Mary appeared moments later, with their respective legal teams in tow. Christine stepped forward and turned to the cameras. "We didn't come here to tear down a man. We came to take back our stories. And today we were heard." Janelle chimed in. This wasn't about revenge. This was about justice. Mary, visibly shaken but steady, stared at the crowd and said, "No woman should ever be made to feel small in the name of faith." The audience exploded in applause. It was no longer a trial. It was a movement. In a matter of hours, TLC released an emergency statement. We are shocked by the news concerning Kody Brown. Immediately, all production on Sister Wives is on hold for review. Our main concern continues to be the dignity and well-being of the women who fearlessly exposed their lives to the world. But the fans weren't crying about the show ending. They were cheering on its resurrection. Hashtags detonated. Hash Sister Wives reclaim their power. Hash Kody verdict. Hash Justice for Christine. Hash Sister Warriors memes went viral. Media outlets everywhere printed headlines. Polygamy patriarch found guilty. TV star brought down by his wives. Kody Brown from reality royalty to real-world consequences. Robin Brown, Kody's most faithful and emotionally guarded wife, walked out of the courthouse alone. She refused to speak to reporters. She was trailed by cameras to a car that pulled up, in which she got in without comment. But insiders later confirmed she had been cooperating with prosecutors behind the scenes during the final days of the trial, turning over emails, recordings, and financial documents. Whether it was guilt, betrayal, or liberation, no one could say. All anyone knew was this: even Robin was done protecting Kody. Kody Brown's guilty verdict carries serious consequences. A maximum sentence of 12 years in state prison for financial misappropriation, asset freezing, and coercive monetary restitution to all affected parties. Civil suits to be brought by Christine Janelle and Mary for emotional and contractual damages. A federal audit of possible tax evasion associated with Kody Pass LLC. The court also granted a temporary injunction, freezing the remaining Brown family assets until they are fully audited. Kody Pass, once Kody's vision of housing his family on common ground, now a frozen reminder of shattered promises and fractured dreams. That evening, Christine uploaded a video from the house. She stood on her porch, her hair whipped back by the wind, eyes unclouded. To all women who are watching this, if you're in a legal marriage, a spiritual marriage, or a relationship where you feel hopeless, let this trial be evidence. Your voice matters. You deserve honesty. You deserve freedom. And you deserve peace. Over 4 million people viewed the video within 24 hours. Janelle uploaded a photo of herself grabbing a cup of coffee with the remark, "Peace tastes better than fear." Mary uploaded a simple quote, "The truth makes you free, although it may take years to utter it."